and think about why you are trying to pass this resolution now. Is it really about simply aligning our city policies, or is this just a way for you to silence those speaking out about genocide? Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Christina Thorburn, followed by Sweetie Marbury.
Hello, my name is Christina Thorburn, and I'm a resident of Durango. I am here to oppose the passing of the agenda number 1.2. You, as a city council, are moving to adopt a resolution that keeps comments on track with the governance of the city of Durango. You claim you have no authority over international or national matters. You may go so far as to say Colorado state matters. That may be true that you don't have such authority, but with your position comes power and influence. I imagine that when you ran for office, you didn't ever think that you would be in such a position as you are now, to have to take a public stance on such an enormous global and human rights issue. That probably feels scary to you. You know who else is scared in ways that we can't even fathom? Palestinians. And yet here we are. You asked us to elect you to be our leaders. And at the foundation of local government is the principle that you represent the constituents. If part of that job is not to represent our voices to larger government bodies, such as Colorado and the rest of the states, then who else are you representing us? If you adopt 11.12, you're doing the exact opposite of your duties. You're silencing your constituents and cutting off the closest and most direct connection we have to government. I ask you to think of why you ran for city council in the first place. Was it to do good? To be of service to your community? If you pass this resolution to limit our speech, then you are quite simply failing your community now. Instead, I call on the humanity in you that I imagine made you want to be a city council member. Step up as the leaders you asked to be. Be brave and pass our demand for a ceasefire. Join our voices in calling for peace and an end to our government-funded genocide. Thank you.
And Mayor, there are 4 public comments left for 11.2. And so Sweetie Margaret is next, followed by Zach Lawrence.
Thank you, Ben.
My name is Sweetie Marbury. I'm a resident of the city of Durango for 50 years. I've been coming to city council since 1987, speaking on issues of parks and recreation, housing, and development issues involving the city. I do support 11.2. The city council has focused generally on issues of city and state issues, and also sometimes looked at to CML for guidance. I'd like to remind everyone in the chambers that Lisa Poole represents Senator John Hickenlooper in Durango, and John Whitney represents Senator Michael Bennett in Durango. Both of these men deal with national and international issues every day of their life. All of us have a voice, and we need to contact our senators. This is what I believe.
I never thought of
This opportunity. Many of the speakers have been passionate and speaking from their heart. I love it, just like you do. However, there will always be tragic and heartbreaking issues facing America. This is just where we live in this day and time. And your congresspeople every day, relentlessly, just like I do, on the phone to Washington, D.C. almost daily. I believe that's where the power is. I'd like to read a few lines from the Durango Herald Sunday editorial. Tell the Biden administration exactly how you feel about the war in Gaza through representatives who work directly with them. Be effective in larger ways. A symbolic resolution from Durango Council is going nowhere. Councilors' ability for real action in this agonizing international matter won't amount to anything. I've been where you are. I understand your dilemma. Yes, you were elected to represent everyone in this chamber and all the people in Durango. You have a very difficult job, and I appreciate that. But I do understand the business of the city governance. And I want to make a difference, you want to make a difference, they want to make a difference. So support free speech every day, calling our senators, taking our stand to Washington, D.C., whatever the stand is. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Zach Lawrence, and that'll be followed by Joshua Craig.
Good evening, good evening, council and mayor. My name is Zach Lawrence. I live in Durango, Colorado. I moved out here in 2001 and took a couple stints as a permit in other areas. But regardless, I would like to speak out against the proposed resolution in favor of, I feel like it's, with grassroots movements they start at home. And as has been mentioned, we call our representative, I call every single day, I call him director corporate, I call Pelosi, every single day I call White House comment. So we are taking our voices to start at home too, and that's where my passion and moral obligation, like I am obligated to, I'm responsible to stand up for my beliefs, and this is the only genuine time I have. And whether it's, this resolution seems benign, to focus on just the local issues, but it's also kind of a proclamation that when our voices get too loud or too passionate or too inconvenient, then it could just be, we could be muffled. And that to me is, that's some of the fact that why the way to go around this issue. And also there is a lot of debate. There's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of precedent too. Creative resolutions are creative local issues. So I feel, but I think upholding democratic values is the fundamental crux of any strong democracy or public forum is freedom of speech. And I understand, what people have said. Obviously, local matters are very important. That's no brainer, but just being very important. And so I'm here to speak against that resolution and in favor of continuing that dialogue and forum that includes all our voices.
Thank you.
And next is Joshua Craig, followed by Jamie Bechtel.
Hello, my name is Joshua Craig, and I'm a resident of Durango, Colorado. I'm speaking today on behalf of the coalition in regards to item 11.2 and why I disagree. I stand here today because I've been a resident of Durango for 7 years now, and I would consider myself lucky if I were fortunate enough to reside here for the next 7 years and beyond. Since moving here, I've started a small landscaping company, and I learned living, quite literally, pouring my blood, sweat, and tears into this soil, into this land we call Durango. I cherish this opportunity, and I feel privileged to be able to work with the residents of this community. And conversely, I am happy to spend my dollar locally. I want to continue spending my hard-earned money at local businesses because I can see that Durango cares about its residents and cares about improving their quality of life. Though a portion of my taxes does get responsibly returned to the community I call home, the unfortunate and, dare I say, inconvenient truth is a portion of the money I spend and work very hard to earn is taken by the federal government and spent internationally. To put simply, money I spend and earn right here in this town is being used to help fund the genocide in Gaza. This is not a political issue, this is not a religious issue, this is a human issue, a human atrocity. And whether we like it or not, our quaint community is currently involved. I will finish by asking the council, if you do not believe it is our duty to speak up on planet-wide affairs, then what planet do you operate on? Thank you.
last public comment for 11.2 is Jamie Bechtel.
Hello. I met this young man in the hallway and asked him if he'd just stand with me. My name is Jamie Bechtel, and I am not a resident of Durango. I was previously, but I've taught here for many years, or for multiple years. And I'm here to speak against number 11. Over the years, I have taught in many of Durango's schools, and I've taught many of Durango's children and young people at River Mist Preschool, Juniper School, Escalante Middle School, and Fort Lewis College. And when I view the images of the suffering that is being experienced by the children of Gaza, I can't help but conflate the agony on their faces with the faces of my own students. Because as a teacher, the thought of losing even one of my students is really impossible to bear. With your proposed legislation, you posit that the tragedy in Gaza is not relevant to city discourse. And yet there are 14 public schools in the Durango 9R district serving 5,794 children. Some of them perhaps are your own children that might go to public school. And I just want you to imagine, and it's not a pretty thing to imagine, but I would like you to imagine just for a moment, all of Durango's children being gone. Just all of them gone. And then if you can double that number in your imagination, and I know it's really hard to do, that doesn't even hit the number of the children that have lost their lives in this conflict in less than a semester of school time. And this is a community of over 400 public school educators, plus the professors at Fort Lewis College and Pueblo Community College, people who have chosen to dedicate their lives to children and young people. And we teach children about political issues. We teach our students about people around the world. We try to instill in them a sense of individual conviction to care about things in the world beyond where they live. So knowing that, I ask, how can you propose a resolution that would prohibit the consideration of, as you say, matters of international political controversy, ideological or religious beliefs, or matters of individual conviction? Why would you propose legislation that would deny our freedom as educators to speak out on the moral injury of this situation? Thank you.
That was our last one. Okay, sorry. May we please then have a reading of the consent agenda? Oh, thank you. Do we have anyone who wanted to comment virtually? I'm sorry.
No one had signed up for a public comment on agenda items, only virtually.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us know. All right, we can have a reading of the consent agenda, please.
Thank you, Mayor. For item 8, the consent agenda, there are no items under 8.1, approval of meeting minutes. There are no items under 8.2, final reading of ordinances. Under item 8.3, under adoption of resolutions by consent, item 8.3.1 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement for the pass-through of property tax backfill funding to the Durango Fire Protection District. There are no items under 8.4, approval of other administrative items. No items under 8.5, land use and development action items, and no items under 8.6, request for public hearing.
Thank you, Ben. Is there any counselor that would like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
May we have a roll call, please, Ben?
Councilor Woodruff,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Buell,
Yes.
and Mayor Easter.
Yes. All right, moving on to item number 10. May we have a reading of item 10.1, please?
Item 10.1 is consideration of a resolution approving the U.S. Eagle Credit Union preliminary plan development, parcel 5669023000310, submitted by Community Development.
Thank you. And we have Mr. Armentano giving this presentation today. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor. Durango with the Community Development Department. This is a preliminary PD request for a state of the U.S. Eagle Credit Union. I'll start with a brief overview. This is a relatively straightforward proposal for development of subdivision of an existing about 2-acre vacant lot out in the South Fork Character District, and I'll show you where that is here on the next slide. The zoning for the property is planned development. However, our typical standards for commercial zoning requirements and design do apply. As stated, it's for a financial institution, U.S. Eagle Credit Union. And the new lot that will be split off will be reviewed and developed at a later date and time. Here's a context map showing the property here outlined in red. So this is the new Northeast Super dealership out here, so it's immediately north of that across Wilson Gulch. We'll point out here, this is platted right-of-way for Crater Ranch Road. That's currently under construction right now, and that will provide access to this lot, which will be split in two, as well as to the Mesa Verde Estates development, which is located to the north and has already been approved. So here's the proposed layout of the development. This is the credit union building right here. Here's Crater Ranch Road and Wilson Gulch Drive to the south. So the access is off of Crater Ranch Road here to the north of the new credit union. There are 2 accesses off of this access easement to provide access to this new bank as well as to the new lot over here. The bank itself, the structure is about 3,400 square feet. It does have a 3-lane drive-through immediately to the north. There are 21 proposed parking spaces with the current application. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a couple slides. And then, as I mentioned, just those 2 access points here. This will be shared with the lot to the east. This quickly is just a representation of the subdivision. So here's the lot that's to be developed, and here's the new lot. They're both about 1 acre. They both do need 50-foot access to the north and have that shared access in between. Both lots conform with the standards for our commercial general zoning district. Here's a couple elevations of the new credit union. The main things to note here are the use of the colors on the exterior. I'll talk about that a little bit more, but generally our design guidelines do require colors to be used more as accents as opposed to primary colors. And there are requirements for corporate colors. In this case, these codes are proposed are corporate colors used in the credit union's logo. So staff has some recommendations to modify those colors to be earth tones to align with our commercial design guidelines. Otherwise, the building is oriented towards both rights-of-way along Crater Ranch Drive, Crater Ranch Road, as well as Wilson Gulch Drive. Just a couple more design considerations. Just talked about the color modifications. There's also a recommendation for them to reduce their parking. By code, this development only needs 12 parking spaces, so we're asking that they reduce the number of parking spaces from 21 to maybe 18 or so and expand landscaping within the parking lot. We're also asking for sidewalks along that access easement to the north, as well as along the Wilson Gulch frontage. And then this image here on the right is the new floodplain maps from FEMA. There's a potential for a floodplain conflict with this blue color here. That's the 100-year floodplain. The applicants have indicated that the building is likely sited outside of that area. If it is within that area, it will need to go through an additional floodplain development permit process, which is relatively straightforward and shouldn't be an issue. If that is a condition of approval, if the building is found to be within that area, they'll need to address that before we make a building permit. Just quickly on applicable standards. First, the development must be consistent with the South Fork Character District Master Plan. That's an adopted plan governing the development standards for the area, as well as the proposed public improvements do need to meet city standards. Staff find that these criteria broadly have been met with the following conditions. First, there will be a final PD submittal, and that will need to address all remaining city comments. That exterior color scheme does need to be updated to align with city standards. There will need to be a sign permit prior to installing any permit signage that they're showing in their elevations. And then that floodplain development issue, if it comes up, will need to be addressed. The Community Development Commission reviewed this back on February 26th. Their comments focused on exterior design and those colors that I mentioned, especially for that drive-through canopy. They also talked about the ability to address the floodplain concern. The applicants are aware of the city's comments and in the hearing did indicate a willingness to address those comments and all the conditions. And the commission recommended approval unanimously on a 7-0 vote. There have been no public comment received by staff up to this point, nor in the Community Development Commission meeting. Just real quickly on process, so this is, so you're all review this evening. If this is approved, the applicant will submit for a final PD review. That's an administrative process. Staff will ensure that any remaining comments are addressed. We'll also review the final plat for the subdivision before it is executed. If those are both completed, the applicant can submit for a building permit review and construction. So staff and the Community Development Commission are both recommending approval by resolution of this project. Motion on screen. I will note that we do have the applicant in person in the audience, as well as their representatives online if you have any questions.
Mayor and council, before this item goes on to council consideration discussion, I want to have Scott Shine come up and just give a recognition to Dan Armentano, as this is his last presentation to the city council, so unfortunately he is going to leave us for the county, but we understand that it's a great jump for you in your career, but you'll definitely be missed. But I want to hand it over to Scott to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Madrigal. We interrupt the regular scheduled program
Again.
to embarrass my colleague and friend. Dan started with the city in 2016 and started as a permit tech. So he's been with us almost 7.5 years. He's now a senior planner in the organization. It's been great to watch his progression as a professional and contributor to the community. And I think it really exemplifies what we're trying to do with the organization, is recognize and support talented individuals doing work. While Dan was working, he got his master's degree from Northern Arizona University. City helped him in that effort as well. So just a great story, bittersweet. We're excited. I'm excited for him, but sad to lose such a high performer and friend. So I wanted to take a moment to recognize Dan for all his contributions. We got him a little gift. I'm sure council knows that we're living out this desire to really support the people in our organization. And even though he's leaving work, we're happy for him. So thanks for that.
All right, do I have a motion from council?
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the proposed U.S. Equal Credit Union preliminary plan development with the findings and conditions as described in the staff report and discussed at this public hearing.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm going to take a moment to see if you have any public comment on this, either live or virtually.
And no one has signed up online or in person for this item.
Thank you so much, then. I'll close the public comment, and with that, can I have council discussion, please?
You succinctly answered all of my questions. The only other lane question I have is about drainage. But I mean, looking at the site maps, it looks like there's more than adequate draining for non-region flood. So I was moving all ahead. So thanks.
Yeah, just quickly, engineering will review that in more detail at the final stage.
Nothing on the project, but thank you for all the work you've done for the city and all the amazing presentations we have had by you.
You're next. Maybe we can roll call, please, then.
Mayor Youssef,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Buell,
Yes.
and Councilor Woodruff.
Yes.
Mayor, Councilor Yazzie joined us online, so I don't know if we need to make a record that she's here. I'm not sure exactly when, if she was is here on that item because we had a presentation on, so I'm not sure if there's a vote that she'd like to take or not on this item.
You should defer to her, if she feels like she's heard enough of the comments and discussion to vote.
Okay, Councilor Yasi, did you hear that? You're on mute. You're still on mute, and we're wondering if you've heard the presentation, if you'd like to take a vote. We've lost your camera now. I think Ben will move on to a roll call, please.
Go ahead and repeat this roll call.
Oh, we already did the roll call.
Sorry. Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on then. May we have a reading, please, of item 11.1?
Thank you, Mayor. 11.1 is a resolution to approve a destination management master plan submitted by the Public Information Office.
Great, and I believe we have the consultant, or Tom, are you gonna sit with us? Wonderful, thank you. I'll hand it over to you.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Tom Sluice, Public Information Officer for the city and staff liaison for Visit Durango. Council directed staff to create a map.
I need to be able to get off mute. Get off mute.
So council directed staff to create a master plan for the management of Durango as a tourist destination. And this item is a high-level document that will aid us as the city addresses the overall impacts of tourism. It's also going to help us align with our existing master plans as well as our strategic plan. So what we have tonight is Bethany DeRose, who is, as a panelist, who's going to give you an overview of the effort that we've undertaken in the past year, and then we will be able to answer your questions, and then there will be a resolution for you to consider to adopt this as our latest master plan. So with that, Bethany, I will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Tom. And good afternoon, city councilors. Thank you for having me here today. Again, Bethany DeRose, Executive Vice President with JLL's Tourism and Destination Advisory Practice. Really pleased to be here after spending several months, over a year, with the city staff, members of the industry, stakeholders, and community working on this 10-year destination management master plan on behalf of the city. Tom, just confirming you can see the screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so as Tom mentioned, I was going to take you through tonight just a quick high-level overview of the planning process and the outcomes. I believe you've had the full plan for about a month-ish. And if you have questions on it, happy to answer any of those. So as you see on the screen, the Destination Management Master Planning process had 4 phases. The first phase was all about engaging with stakeholders, members of the industry, community, and city staff. We spent a lot of time up front getting to know the community and understanding the city's strategic planning process and values of the city, and how to incorporate those aspects into this process. Phase 2 was entirely focused on data-driven elements of the plan. There was a significant amount of market research, both primary research and subscription research that went into this effort to benchmark Durango and consider where we are today and where maybe we are aspirationally in the future. So a lot of work done in that phase 2 period to gain insight and use that data as we headed into phase 3, which was all about sort of combining the feedback from stakeholders, community members, and city staff, and the research elements to determine where we potentially headed, what priorities were surfacing to the top, and try to create strategies around those priorities. Phase 4 was ultimately where we tried to take that vision and strategic thinking and ultimately want to put a roadmap together, something that would live on for 10 years and be a guiding document for the city and for its partners as the plan is activated over time. So the purpose of the project, again, develop a roadmap for the destination, considering management and stewardship again, from the position of the city, but also being inclusive of partners and of the community. This language is very closely tied to wording in the original RFP. So the city did put out a very specific RFP, and we were, again, my team and I, lucky enough to be awarded the opportunity to work on this project collaboratively with the city, and thinking about its future over the next 10 years as a destination of choice for visitors and for residents. So I mentioned that phase one, we're going to just highlight a couple of quick things that were involved in the process. I mentioned phase one was all about engagement. So there was key engagement. In the very beginning, we formed a task force, 16-member task force that met regularly. That task force was made up of both industry members, city staff, members of the sort of broader Durango community that are both directly and indirectly involved with the tourism and hospitality space. There were a lot of great discussion coming out of that task force with both individuals and as a group that have played a key role here in the recommendations and strategies included in the plan. We also had 7 in-person focus groups with over 40 participants. Those focus groups were focused on everything from, again, the sort of core traditional tourism considerations, as well as city sustainability, air service development, economic development, and making sure we had broad touch points and participation across those conversations. Next piece here, we did have an open forum town hall. We hosted that one evening while we were in town, same week that we did the in-person focus groups. We had several great conversations and issues surfaced during that town hall where people raised their concerns and their support for the community.
All right, guys, I'm going to show you what they've done in the water fountain here. They say it's out of order, but I think they did that to just make the meeting more uncomfortable for people that are attending. As you can see, the water fountain works. So this water fountain is obviously operational, but they put this sign on it to make it look like it's not operational, just to make the meeting a little more uncomfortable for people.
Again, part of the RFP that the city released. We partnered with Durango which is globally well known in this space, entirely focused on studying impact of the tourism industry. And so there's a lot more behind the slide that has been included.
Pete's break.
So is the audio good enough to understand what people are saying when they get up on the mic, or is the audio just a reverberation problem where the acoustics of the room make it difficult to hear what's happening? Should have good service out here.
Yeah, I feel like we would have to I'd like to look.
Yeah, and they've also arranged the place where the people are commenting, where they're submitting their public comments, so that their backs are turned to the entire audience of the public. Whereas in the past, they used to be positioned off to the side so that you could see their faces when they're commenting. What's up, Space Miner? The city council meeting tonight.
Sounds good, man.
It's talking about, they've got a lot of different topics on the agenda, but the most popular topic is a discussion of a resolution that city council is looking to get feedback on, which would prohibit the creation of legislation on matters of international political controversy or ideological matters. So most of these public commenters are against against the resolution
Yeah, no.
because most of them want to see a resolution for a ceasefire in Gaza. Any kind of details you can give me about the audio and what problems there are with the audio or the visual quality of this video would be appreciated.
Yeah, exactly.
What's up, Huntington Township Watch? Space Miner. For the record, Kristen M, thanks for the feedback.
And push it through.
Gentleman Sterling, Northwoods Press.
Yeah, but I mean,
Recommended guidance for the city to consider as it moves forward with the destination management master plan. So just to go over a couple of those, you see the first one on the screen, sustainable development of the Durango experience. This ties directly back to all of those key findings, wanting to prioritize sustainability and identify partnership with the destination and community. The sustainable development of the Durango experience is sort of a holistic way and a well-rounded way to consider the industry and consider the community.
Yeah, I agree, Huntington Township Watch. Again, look at this water fountain. They've done this to make it really uncomfortable for people, because look at this. This thing works. There's nothing dysfunctional about it.
Second one, alignment and collaboration on industry infrastructure needs. So this ties back to, as it says here, infrastructure, so sort of backbone for the industry as well, and the importance of that over time, and the importance of that for the city, as the city obviously invests in infrastructure projects as it goes forward. The third, tourism product development. So the tourism product that we have today in Durango is incredible and cherished by both the community that is there, your residents, and obviously all of you, but also the visitor who is coming and wanting to share those experiences. And one of the things that we found does tie back to, again, that sustainable development of the Durango experiences. What do we want to see in Durango? What do we want to see from a product standpoint? Are there considerations or opportunities that should be considered? And this recommendation area gives guidance on that. Number 4, sustainable tourism marketing and destination branding. The city has already taken action on this, but this is just to put a sort of reinforcement on this area with the sustainable tourism marketing dollars that are allocated in support of that ongoing effort. Number 5, relationship and communication management among all partners. And this is something that is the city and its staff and partners are already doing. But again, as we evolve as a community and as a destination over the next 10 years, continuing that two-way conversation, identifying partners as the plan evolves and as the city evolves, to ensure that management of the destination is consistent and is clear, and that is leveraged of those great partners. And lastly, number 6, update and address policies to support sustainable tourism development. Again, kind of tied to the one prior, this is something that will continue to evolve. There are already policies in place. There are opportunities as this entire plan and as time progresses, that we may need to stop and address and look at our current policy and look at guidelines and look at partners to make sure we're checking in on that sustainable tourism development of that destination management. Where are there opportunities for us to find better alignment or drive an increased return in a particular area? So each of these 6 that you see on the screen, again, they all contain more specific recommendations and strategies in the actual document. But I am happy to stop here and take questions. I know that there's been a lot of time put into this project, and just want to thank the city staff and city councilors for giving us the opportunity to collaborate with you on this work, and look forward to hearing your questions or thoughts.
Excellent. Questions or comments from council?
Yeah, I have a few. Who's gonna be responsible, do we have the staff and then them for communication?
That's the $1 million question. So right now, we just have one city staff liaison, which is myself. we do have staff members who are meeting with various committees with Visit Durango for sustainability and for destination management. But this particular plan is pointing that out. One of the things that we did discuss in great detail was the cost of doing nothing. So I think it's really going to be incumbent to develop that plan and for the outreach to happen and have a better in-house approach. We do have one that's kind of ad hoc, but it's going to require some in-depth discussions because it is going to be a greater staff doing it.
Yeah, because I was like, this plan's a lot for Visit Durango to take on, and I don't think that that's what they're designed for necessarily. And so if we're going through the effort of doing a big destination management plan with 10-year implementation goals, I feel like we need to be ready as a city and staff to implement said plan. How, given the 10-year timeframe, how will the plan be adapted to the changing market trends or unforeseen circumstances? Will they be asked to come in and do edits? Will we?
No, this plan is not really intended to be a prescriptive plan for the next 10 years that's going to require exact implementation. There's enough leeway built into it, so as we have different input and different data points that show, for example, tourism might be morphing into a different direction, we can pivot and incorporate all of that. We've been doing that, I think, from the get-go regarding trying to disperse visitors throughout different areas and trying to really focus on the shoulder season. So I think as that data comes in and the spring was really good about that, we've got the flexibility and the adaptability to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Does the plan encourage public involvement at different stages, like as we're going through it? The 10-year thing is just, that's a long.
Yeah, I mean, the 10-year plan really is to inform essentially the RFPs that we're going to be putting out in the next couple of years for our contract to deal with the lodgers tax. The public involvement is really going to be, I think, with these groups that, for example, Visit Durango has with the board meetings. We're always open to gathering more public input in terms of where they would like to see the knowledge spent. Is it being done in a way? I mean, perfectly happy to do more forums, I'm sure. Nancy would be willing to jump in on that. I love the polls, I love the forums, so we're plenty of opportunity.
Yes, and then destination branding, is that gonna align with city branding or something towards the Durango branding?
At this point, our discussion on logo and branding is just with the city.
Yes.
In terms of their branding for the area from a marketing and tourism perspective, it's a separate issue.
Okay. Yeah, I think that definitely implementation is gonna be huge for me and how we're updated and, yeah, what the next steps will be after that.
Yeah, so right now our plan is we will have written reports every quarter from Visit Durango, and I know they're trying to also have a greater presence during public comments. We will have Rachel here in the annual report, so I know they're very interested to make it concern.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about what is the next step, where do we go after we got this information? And I will also say that before I was elected on the city council, I sat in on one of these focus groups over a year ago. So it's been that long of compiling data and really looking through all of that data to really bring this to work. So if anybody is out there that really wants to look at what tourism looks like in our community, and not only tourism, but like how we as a municipality manage that tourism to align with our values. Take a look at the city council packet from today. It's, it's something pages long. It's an incredible resource for how we envision tourism in our community moving forward. And so, yeah, it's not just anecdotal. It's 30% of our economy and 26% of the workforce is attributed to tourism. So it's a major sector, and how we move forward with that over the next 10 years, I think is really important. And I, like Jessica, I think I'm really looking forward to see what those next steps are, and then what does it mean over the next 10 years, and how we will be so thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for the efforts. It has been a long time in the coming. I really liked the desire to focus with a prioritization on sustainability and managing visitor impacts. I mean, we've all known that this is some of our top priorities, so it's nice to see that reiterated in this plan. I agree that we do want to keep this alive and make sure we use it to our fullest potential, which I'm sure, I'm assuming Visit Durango has seen this and we will share, yeah. And so I would love to see maybe even, work with them if we don't have the staffing to see how we can best implement some of these ideas. I know that they're similar in concept to what I've heard from Visit Durango in the past, but I'd like to keep moving forward in that direction. And I also thought it was really interesting that she talked about, again, like we've been sharing, and we shared in our retreat, is, what do we want Durango to be? And again, I think you mentioned that in your area of branding, but also this is a higher identity issue that I think that we're all talking about and wanting to hone in on over the next bit of time. So I think that this is a good step in the right direction. Other thoughts or comments?
I think Jill just logged back on.
Yeah, I'm wondering if
See if, because she's been on, I think.
So Yazzie might want to say anything as she does. We should probably promote her as a panelist.
Can you and unmute her for her, or be able to?
I can request her too, so it should pop up on her.
That would be awesome.
So she is there. Counselor Yazzie, did you want to make any comments?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we had councilor comments, but we didn't actually have a motion on the table. Do we need a motion here? Yes, we did have a motion. We need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution R-2024-14, accepting the designation 2034, the City of Durango's Destination Management Master Plan to guide the city's tourism efforts for the next 10 years.
Second.
We already had comments, but do we have any further council discussion? Roll call, please, Ben.
Council Woodruff,
Yes.
Council Yazzie,
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Buell,
Yes.
and Mayor Youssef.
Yes. Thank you, Ben. Thank you,
Thank you.
Tom. And thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, councilors.
All right, may we have a reading of 11.2, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Item 11.2 is a resolution establishing a policy of the City of Durango City Council prohibiting the consideration of legislation concerning matters of international political controversy, ideological or religious beliefs, or individual conviction, matters directly impacting the governance of the City of Durango, accepted, and that's submitted by the City Attorney's Office.
Thank you, Ben. Mr. Morgan, would you like to introduce?
I will do my best. It's resolution number 2024-15, if I understand correctly.
Sorry,
Resolution 2024-15. Before I start, I just want to say that I share the emotion and conviction that former Mayor Sweet Marbury gives when it comes to freedom of expression. You don't go to law school to try to repress rights, you go to law school to try to protect them. And having said that, I can comment that the proposed policy found in tonight's agenda, if passed, is a tool to align public comment at regular special meetings with previously adopted policies and ordinances. Current city ordinance section 2-200 prohibits councilors from considering legislation regarding political party or regional or ideological partisanship. Current policy prohibits councilors from making proclamations taking sides in matters of political, ideological, or religious beliefs or individual conviction. It's significant that the language in there says consider legislation, because the only place you can consider legislation is at a regular meeting like tonight, or at a special meeting that the mayor and 3 councilors have the ability to call. It has nothing to do with freedom of expression and many other forms that are available to the residents of Durango. It's just regarding your meetings. Regarding public comments and free speech at our meetings, the first thing I'd like to make very, very clear is that this is a decision of the elected officials of the city of Durango. These are your meetings, and it is your decision how you conduct them. You already have policies in place that restrict time, place, and manner. You made a choice to adopt Robert's rules on how we conduct these meetings. You made a choice to limit the time councilors can speak, and you made a choice to limit the time the public can speak. So you already have restrictions on free speech at your regular meetings. A lot of people understand those restrictions, but when it gets to restrictions that come to whether the type of forum that you're going to conduct, people are less familiar. The Supreme Court of the United States recognizes traditional public forums, designated public forums, and limited public forums. Legally and constitutionally, you're only required to have public comment on matters that you will be voting on. You have chosen to have public comment on other non-agenda items. The question before you tonight is whether you're going to become a designated public forum or maintain your status as a limited public forum. Since you hired me, we've had a history where we've adhered to the rules of order and followed specific procedures to advance the business of the city. These rules and procedures were established to allow us to react appropriately to the type of incidents that happened during the hate bombing and the anti-Semitism a few meetings back. You will recall that during those meetings, I very loudly said, this is a limited public forum, and you are constitutionally allowed to restrict this type of speech. Excuse me. In contrast, and in the news recently, Fort Collins has designated themselves a public forum. They are not a limited public forum. Their agenda very clearly says that any matter can be spoken about by any individual who signs up to speak at their meetings. There are other places in Colorado where the charter says that you are required to have a designated part of your agenda creating a designated public forum where you cannot restrict things to city business. If you read the news articles about Fort Collins, they were unable to conduct business at that meeting because of their status as a designated public forum. And I understand for researching about it, they may go to completely virtual public meetings to avoid the type of issues that they had at that meeting. I personally wouldn't advise Fort Collins to do that, but I don't work for Fort Collins, I work for you guys. Absent a charter change, I'm going to stress again, this is your meeting, it is your business meeting, and you have the absolute right to decide what type of forum you want to be. And the legislation that's out there today is constitutionally appropriate. It retains your designation as a limited public forum. It is a choice that you have to make between being a limited public forum where you can restrict speech in a constitutional way, like you already do for time, place, and manner. You're just restricting it to city business. This has no effect on the city as a whole. A lot of people have made comments that the city is trying to limit or silence us. That's a very, very overreaching, overbroad approach, but is very effective when you're demonstrating to try to prove a point. That is not what is happening here. You guys are making a simple decision between being a designated public forum, and I pointed out one of the problems that can happen in a designated public forum like it happened in Fort Collins, or retaining your status as a limited public forum. The constitutional case for anyone who's listening is Rosenberg versus University of Virginia, which very clearly establishes by the Supreme Court that limited public forums are constitutional, they are appropriate, and they are within your authority to establish with things like this resolution.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion from council?
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution establishing a policy of the Durango City Council prohibiting the consideration of legislation concerning matters of international political controversy, ideological or religious beliefs, or individual conviction, matters directly impacting the governance of the City of Durango accepted, FEHPG. Resolution number 2024-15.
I second Gilbert.
Thank you, Councilor Yossi. Council discussion. Who would like to start?
Okay, I mean, that didn't look like you were going so long ago. Okay, my thoughts on the resolution before us. I educate myself and I study issues of city budgeting, finance, affordable housing, transit, parks and recreation. Durango's strength lies in addressing the needs and concerns of our local community, not wading into complex international matters that I will be completely honest with you, I do not have the education or background to make policy on. While we can strive to be global citizens, pronouncements on delicate affairs of this nature risk overstepping our bounds and potentially complicating existing diplomatic efforts. And then the question lies, where do we draw the line? Do we propose resolutions about funding Ukraine, laws that Alabama just passed about frozen embryos, border policy? The list could go on, and public comment could go on and on for hours. This is not what I am educated on. And we may disagree about this, and you may say that I should educate myself on these items, and that's okay. But I can tell you as a mom of 2 teenage boys, owner of 2 businesses in the city of Durango, a city councilor that makes roughly $10,000 a year to sit here and educate myself on city issues. It is not in my bandwidth to have the education or background for every national or international issue. It is not in my ability or scope. I ran for council because I love our community. I ran for council for the community I fell in love with 22 years ago. I ran because I love raising my kids here. I love owning businesses here. I love the spirit and character of our community. Someone here said that we are trying to silence you, and that is in fact not the case. We have listened, we have taken notes, and we hear you. In those first meetings, no councilor wanted to champion the resolution you were wanting us to do. It's okay to disagree. It's okay for us to disagree on what you think we should advocate for as city councilors, what we should weigh in on. It's okay for us to disagree on what you think I should be educated on even. We are able to disagree. That's what makes our community so amazing. It's why I moved here. It's why I love raising my kids here. And just because we don't agree doesn't mean we need to be disagreeable, rude, or disrespectful. It doesn't mean that we have to hate each other. When we start discussing issues that are deeply rooted in religious and cultural complexities, this is outside of why I was elected to city council. I ran on issues of affordable housing, of keeping the spirit and character alive here. These issues that we're talking about in this resolution often defy simple solutions. I believe our true strength lies in demonstrating the values we hold dear as a community. Durango has a long history of advocating for peace, understanding, and respect of all individuals, regardless of their backgrounds or beliefs. We can continue to champion these values by supporting organizations working directly in the region to provide humanitarian aid and foster dialogue, promoting intercultural understanding and education within our own community, standing in solidarity with those suffering from conflict regardless of their nationality or religion. There are important roles we all play in our community: activists, city councilors, city staff. Knowing how and where we best serve our community is crucial to getting important work accomplished and having meetings run effectively. I love engaged citizens. We have had council chambers filled numerous times. Sometimes we voted with the room, sometimes we didn't, but we listened. And we voted the way we felt was best for the city. And that is our role as councilors. That is why we were elected. Those are just a few of my thoughts as we navigate the complex waters and my time is to keep going.
Thank you. Other councilors?
Policymaking is at the heart of our roles as city councilors. We decide on policy as a body, and our critical staff in the city take over the operational aspect of those policy decisions and make them a reality. Some resolutions and ordinances are slam dunks, and some make sense to everybody. Sometimes they're divisive and impact different groups within our community. Even rarely, sometimes it's asked for us to take a stance in supporting or not supporting matters of national and global importance. Taking the time to pass this last type of resolution and taking a stance on an issue, while almost always noble, often has effects that are not noticed by those who need to hear them the most. We are already divided on local issues like waitless hours at Lake Nighthorse, how to best spend Lodgers tax revenues, and what our proposed annexation and subsequent development should look like. An even larger divide can be seen on a resolution supporting or not supporting a ceasefire in Gaza. Council taking a stance on such a complicated issue only deepens those local divides that cannot be solved by a two-page document. Frankly, we're overwhelmed by local problems that we could better apply our intellectual bandwidth towards. That being said, substantive impact in our community happens on the local level. Sound local policy direction happens through collaborative public input with our constituents, listening to civic leaders, our Durango residents, and subject matter experts, and considering legislation with an objective mind. I believe considering most, if not all, ordinances or resolutions are a part of why we are here and why we are elected into our roles as city councilors. By voting yes on this resolution, my feelings are that it only disconnects us from our community and takes away from the important work that we do on a daily basis. Considering legislation, even legislation that is being proposed by constituents today and in previous meetings, is the backbone of why we are here. I do not believe we should be restricting legislative proposals that our community members find important. Our job is rarely ever easy. I believe that's why we wanted to be on council in the first place. Roll up our sleeves and get the work done even when it's hard. But unfortunately, the cost of distancing ourselves from our community far outweighs any type of benefit. We all ran on platforms to listen to our community and weigh out their voice and create meaningful policies around what is important to us and what reflects our values. I believe that this resolution being proposed currently can be taken entirely out of context by someone and used to silence public participation on the grounds of ideological beliefs. The unintended consequence of this resolution leave me concerned that members of the public could be left out because of one person's interpretation of what this resolution brings forth. Often, local government is the first connection that people have with their government at large. If constituents feel like they are not being heard by their state or federal representatives, then this is the only mechanism they have left to give their concerned voice. Additionally, while the First Amendment may prohibit Durango City Council from making any law respecting the establishment of religion, the latter part of the First Amendment states, and I quote, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances, end quote. It is that last phrase, right of the people peacefully to assemble and petition the government for a redress of grievances, that compels me to believe that this resolution will inflict more harm than do good and alienates this council from the people. Sometimes we are the last place constituents can go and feel like they are seen and heard by their government. These folks have the right to peacefully assemble and redress the grievances so long as that assembly and redress do not devolve into hate speech or disrupt the ability of this body to conduct business regarding city operations. This mechanism gives them a peaceful option to voice their concerns. That peaceful legislative option is taken away from them. It gives them few other options to peacefully assemble and petition their government. While this resolution may not directly inhibit public participation in speech, however, this takes away a lever for the public to pull and feel like their voices are heard. Ultimately, we as a council reserve the right to bring up a possible resolution under new business. We have not exerted that right with the coalition proposals these past 3 weeks. I feel that we do not need a resolution preventing what we are already doing. After the boards and commissions dissolution, this matter gives the optics that we are again trying to limit public participation in the city process. We have taken great strides in capturing public participation via other outlets. Thank you, Clancy. Thank you, Tom. Like engaged Durango Farm, City Council meeting, public participation, and utilization of focus groups, reaching out to local and regional nonprofits, contact City Council with the website, etc., etc., etc. But this reinforces the belief that we are trying to limit public participation when we are actually trying to achieve the exact opposite. Thank you.
Councilor Ghazi, did you want to add something?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I appreciate all the comments. You know, this resolution has brought me to think about how I do feel about city government. And moving forward, I do think this resolution would help us be more effective in what we're trying to accomplish, which is provide services for the city of Durango. We have been working as a limited public forum since I came to council. And I think this resolution is just simply codifying it in our ordinances. One of the reasons I ran for city council was to see if we could streamline our meetings, go ahead and participate in a very functional fashion. And I do think this resolution would help us do that. This resolution does not impact the way the public wants to interact with us, because they can still bring their resolution to city council. They would still have to get somebody to sponsor it. You would have to get 2 counselors to sign on it, a first and a second, and then you'd have to bring it forward and get a majority vote for it to become part of our regulations. So the process is still there to move forward with resolutions. I do feel good about this resolution, and that's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Yazzie. And I'll just add my notes that, first of all, I sincerely appreciated hearing from all of you. You're very passionate public comments. And I just want to say that in my opinion, this is no means an effort to stop any of your advocacy and support for this cause. And I hope that everyone in this room, regardless of the outcome, continues with that advocacy and cause. And as a city, I think that we will continue to do what we can to support that in the right forums. I want to say that I've served for 7 years. I feel honored to have had the opportunity to pass literally hundreds of resolutions that directly impact the health and well-being of our residents, resolutions that support housing, transportation, safety and security, infrastructure, streets, the list goes on. I've been myopically focused on local issues, looking at the state and national level when it involves funding and or legislation that has a direct impact on our community. And I have done this because I believe that that was what I was elected to do. And that may sound counter to many of you in this room, but it is not counter to the many colleagues that support my position. It is not counter to our current state ordinances that prohibit councilors from considering legislation regarding political party or regional or ideological partisanship. And it is not counter to our current city policy that prohibits council from making proclamations taking sides in matters of political, ideological, or religious beliefs. The resolution that we're considering tonight aligns public comment on non-agenda items with previously adopted ordinances and policies, allowing our meetings to remain focused on matters that directly impact the governance of the city. While I was not on council when these ordinances and policies were enacted, I support them, as it has allowed me to focus on all things Durango. I want to thank our city manager for reaching out to our congressional delegation in an effort to promote opportunities for meaningful discourse on issues of international conflict, hopefully with people listening who are in a position to take action. Many of you have sat through several city council meetings now. You see the work that we address at each meeting. I hope you see the importance of maintaining a structure where we can productively complete our work while simultaneously promoting free speech and opportunities to gather, assembly, and peacefully promote and or protest. I would also ask that councilors who do not support this resolution tonight to talk about what it is you will do to support the individuals in this room and further support their cause if you want to keep hearing from them in this setting. What action will you take to make a difference for them? What action can you take to make a difference for them in this setting? As difficult as it is for me to stand in front of you, this very rightfully passionate and determined group, I want to be honest and forthright with what I believe I was elected to do and what I am able to do within the confines of our own governing documents. And with that, I'll see if any other comments if any other councilor has additional comments to add. Okay, seeing none, may we have a roll call, please, Ben?
Councilor Yazzie,
Yes.
Mayor Youssef,
Yes.
Councilor Woodruff,
No.
and Mayor Pro Tem Buell.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. With that, we will move on to public comment on non-agenda items, item number 13. Do we have individuals who would like to participate in that tonight?
Yeah, it's a moment, Mayor, while I sort the list here. So there's 10 individuals signed up to speak during public participation for non-agenda items. And we can start with folks present in the room, if that works for you.
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and read a brief some comments before, and then I'll have Paul in. This section of the agenda is set aside for the public to provide comments regarding items.
Thank you, Councilor Woodruff. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine. Please note that in order to make a comment tonight, you'll need to have signed up on our electronic public participation form The QR code is available near the front door as well as a computer tablet for this purpose. The rules are similar to those that, for items that do appear on the agenda. Begin your comments by stating your full name, the topic you will comment on if you are a resident of the city of Durango. Make your comments directly to council. Do not expect a response from council or staff. We're limiting comments to 3 minutes for each individual signed in, and whose time is not transferable to other speakers. Exceeding the time limit infringes on the rights of others and is out of order. Only majority vote of the council can extend those limits. Comments must be germane and specific to city matters. Personal attacks, profanity, hate speech, derogatory remarks, speech unrelated to city matters, or other speech that is disruptive to the meeting will be ruled out of order by the chair, and remaining time will be forfeited. That's it. Thank you. Well, go ahead and start, Ben.
The first individual is Keaton Griffith, and that's going to be followed by Katya's speaker.
Good evening, my name is Keith Griffith, I'm a Durango resident. I'm here to speak to the effort to put us in contact with our federal representatives regarding our concerns with Palestine. Really, this effort is pretty patronizing. I mean, it feels like we haven't been listened to at all because many of us have been calling and emailing our reps every single day for over 5 months now about this. They do not listen. They're not gonna listen just because you pass us off to them without having our backs first. And again, that's why this feels like a way to just wave us off again, like we're not your problem, because you don't have our backs first. It's just gonna become a circle of no one listening to us. And by doing this, you're demonstrating that you have the power to take our concerns up the chain. So acting like you can't do anything because you can only address local matters, it doesn't make any sense anymore. It never did anyway. The city has done this before too with climate change, as we heard earlier tonight with previous resolutions, with collaborating with other cities, higher level representatives. Why can't you do it with this issue? Climate change and this are both global humanitarian issues, and climate change and colonial violence are both deeply intertwined. You cannot solve one without addressing the other. I can understand why you think that working within the system and putting us up to these federal representatives is the right way to solve things. I mean, we've all been taught this like our whole lives, but something that I've learned personally within the past few years is that no liberation in history has ever come from working within the system. People have always had to fight to force the system to do the right thing. And tonight, you just passed a resolution that makes it certain that that's our only choice here. So just listen to me and know that you failed us, you failed me, you failed the world by helping to preserve a status quo that allows for genocide to be possible.
Yeah.
The next individual is Katya's speaker, and that's going to be followed by Christina Thorberg.
Okay, we're gonna take a recess. I'd like to make a motion to take a recess. Do I have a second? Second. Council discussion. Roll call, please, then.
Councilor Woodruff. Mayor Pro Tem Buell.
Yes.
Councilor Nazi.
Yes.
And Mayor Youssef.
Yes, thank you.
That's loud.
All right, guys, we're gonna shut down the live stream and restart it here at Durango City Council meeting.